Back here on the Cover 3 podcast, live on CBS Sports Network. Pleased to be joined by Washington coach Jedd Fisch. Now, Coach, the timing of the arrival was a little bit later than a lot of the coaching carousel. You know, the way that these dominoes fall, sometimes that happens. But your experience of understanding Washington was there. You know, this was a program that you competed against. So what was your view of the Washington football program from the outside that really informed you wanting to make the move?
Yeah, it was certainly a challenge because it was January 15th or 16th, somewhere in that range. So the portal was closed. You're already started with your team. You've already had team meetings talking about the next season, talking about what you want to accomplish in spring football. And then this happened with Coach Saban, domino effect, right? So I was fortunate enough that we've played Washington the last 3 years that I was at Arizona, played Washington when I was at UCLA, so had 4 games against them, and I understood what University of Washington was. And 2021, they had a down year at 4-8, and then, you know, saw what they did in the last 2 years after that with the same team and just kept them together and got better and better and better, and felt like we had 2 great games against them. So I knew how good Washington could be. I knew they were just coming off a national championship. You couldn't ask for a better setup in terms of hitting a team when they're hot. And then, you know, the team changed. But we now have this. The program is in a great spot, and it was a chance to join the Big Ten.
Yeah, like I think back to when you first took the Arizona job, you were inheriting a program that had gone winless the season before in the COVID season, and it was a rebuild. And now you're in a situation where it's rare. Washington was in the title game last year, but it's kind of another rebuild. How are you comparing the situations, and with your experience at Arizona, how is that preparing you for what you've got to do here?
I call it more of a reboot here.
Oh, okay.
Because I think when you're in a rebuild, you really are laying foundation, and then you're going one step at a time and trying to teach a team that doesn't know how to win. When we're in a reboot, meaning we don't have the team we had. 21 and 22 starters are gone, and you know we have no returning starters on offense, and we kind of have a smorgasbord of players from all different places. But you know we hit that reboot button because University of Washington knows how to win, and guys that were on this team, the 38 scholarship players that are back, they know what it feels like to win 25 to 28 games. The 12 guys that came to us from Arizona, they know what it feels like to win 10 games and be on a 7-game win streak. So my hope is that we're rebooting a little bit. We know it's not necessarily where it would be if we had a bunch of 5th and 6th year players, 13 of which are in the NFL right now. But we also know that Washington has such a strong brand that we should be able to get it started quicker.
Most important position in the game, you got somebody with a lot of experience. Will Rogers comes in after an illustrious career in the SEC, so you know you're getting that. How much of an advantage of that is at least knowing somebody that's been out there in the spotlight and has been able to perform at a high level?
Yeah, the big thing with Will is coach's kid, right, which is so big, right? Second thing is that 40 starts, and not just 40 starts anywhere, right? 40 starts, and in those starts, it's Alabama, it's Tennessee, it's Florida, it's Auburn, it's Georgia. So the experience that he has of being an SEC quarterback, the experience he has of playing 2 different systems, Mike Leach's system and then his system he played in last year. This is now going to system 3. But he has that ability to really understand football. He has the ability to be very efficient. He's a very high completion percentage guy. And what we just want to do is continue to use his brain and his football acumen to our advantage.
Can you take us into the process of hiring Steve Belichick as your defensive coordinator and the person, right? Because you know, we sometimes at the New England Patriots organization, you get so fascinated with the figurehead up top, you don't always get to know all the different pieces. So, you know, what have you seen from him? Or any good Steve Belichick stories so far from the time y'all have spent together?
Yeah, well, I mean, I would say this. We were able to bring 21 staff members with us from Arizona. And our whole offensive staff, special team staff, our strength staff, our training staff, and our defensive staff, we brought 2 of the 5 guys. And we brought John Richardson and Jason Kafusi. And I knew that I wanted to hire an NFL defensive coordinator.
Okay.
I worked with Steve before when I was coaching for the Patriots. So there was 5 or 6 guys that I reached out to that were in the NFL. that I thought would be candidates for this coordinator job. Steve was the one that I felt like if I could get him, he was going to be the guy. I just didn't know. He was going to wait to see if his dad took a job. He was going to wait to see what else happened in New England. So he was kind of in a holding pattern. I was in a holding pattern. But I really felt, and I kept telling our players, and we lost some players in transition because they didn't know who our defensive coordinator was going to be. And I kept saying, I'm not going to rush it, but trust me when I tell you, you'll be happy with who I get. The guys that stayed were happy. And Steve is he's a great person. He's a great worker. He's like his dad, that he's a great listener. And I was able to bring him and Vinny Sinceri, both from New England. And then we were able to hire Robert Bala from Alabama to be our linebacker coach. So that's our staff. So our staff is really consists of everyone that we had. And then we added 2 Patriots and a guy from Bama. And I felt really good that we were going to be patient on defense and hire the 3 guys that I really felt were going to be best for our team.
Real quick on a follow there. So why'd you say NFL defensive coordinator? How was that the starting point for you?
Yeah, Michigan.
Yeah.
If you look at what Michigan did, Coach Harbaugh and I are very close. I talked to Coach Harbaugh about it, and he felt like when he made that transition to Mike McDonald and then Jesse Minter, that he really felt like they had a competitive advantage. And then you look at what UCLA did last year when Chip hired Danton Lynn. They all of a sudden became a top 10 defense.
Yep.
And then so you start looking around and you start saying, okay, these NFL, Al Golden and Notre Dame, top 10 defense, came from the Bengals. So you start looking at what's working right now. Now the good part is none of them are running the Patriots defense. So they can all run the Ravens defense and we'll run the Patriots defense. But I felt that was what it was for me, and that's why I wanted to do that.
We've talked a little bit about this, and I'm curious to know what advice you've given to Steve about the difference in, NFL, you've got them all day, you've got them from 7 in the morning till 5 at night, you have all this time. Do you tell them to be careful, be cautious, pare it back? Like, what's the approach between, and I get that college players are becoming more professional, but they still do have other requirements. What do you tell them as far as what they can handle?
Yeah, it's an ongoing conversation of realizing not only is it what they can handle, but you're also defending a lot of different stuff in college football. There's not as much, there's unbalanced isn't something they do in the league. As you know, they're not going to run a lot of X motion. They're not going to sit there and be in wide splits with no, pass blockers other than the 5. You're not going to see that. So I've told Steve, you're going to see a lot of different offense, and you're going to have less time with them. So what we have to do is just be really good at fundamentals. The beautiful thing about Steve and about that system that his dad and Parcells created was that it's about the fundamentals. If you watch the Patriots on defense, they're the best tacklers in the NFL, period. If you watch them on defense, they play with their hands better than everybody else. They're gap sound. They do their job. So do less, but do that is kind of what we talk about.
So we're here at Media Days, which to me has always been kind of like the de facto starting point for the season. It means it's right around the corner. As you're getting ready for week 1, what's the thing you're seeing with your team right now that has you the most excited for this season to get started?
They're coming together. They're coming together culturally. They're coming together off the field. They scheduled a dinner on their own at some Japanese hibachi steakhouse the other night. They had a barbecue at one of the players' houses. 5 of them took out boats and they packed 8, 10, 12.
Yeah, we won't tell Coast Guard about that.
On the boats. They grill every Saturday after their lifts. Those are the things that we needed to do. We're like, I always say we're like a Mother's Day buffet, this football team. You got lamb chops and omelets going on at the same time. So we have to grab from 12 different universities. Our team, last year our team is built from guys that played at 12 different schools. So we've got to get them together, and we got to get them close fast. So we're going to spend a lot of time, what we call mind time, during training camp, where we get to know each other better and see how close we can become as a team.
He is Jedd Fisch, head coach of the Washington Huskies. Jedd, thank you so much for spending time with us here on the Cover 3 podcast.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Coach.
Coming up on the other side, we will turn our attention to the reigning champion, the Michigan Wolverines, joined by Sam Webb of 24/7 Sports. All that and more next.